Good afternoon, my dear brothers and sisters, and again welcome to our program. Today we continue with our topic of thoughts and emotions. We have been trying to check the relationship between thoughts and emotions. We have seen what are the thoughts, we have discussed what are the emotions, and then we also discussed the thoughts, emotions, and the behavior. We also saw that maybe the actions that happen in our lives, those actions, although we call them activating events, those actions have really nothing to do with our thoughts and emotions. Our emotions are produced by the judgment we give to those actions. And that is why we have always been insisting that we can be in the same event, or something similar happen to you and to me, but we make different, or we end up having different emotions. Meaning that the thoughts and emotions and the behavior are sometimes not interrelated. They are not the same in the different people. So today we are entering, but very quietly and slowly, into the topic of thoughts, emotions, and politics. Sometimes you wonder how the whole nation, or how the whole people, or how whole group enter into the same thought pattern, and even having the same emotive patterns. Now, why do we enter into this type of the discussion? It's because sometimes many politicians all over the world, not just in Kenya, they know how to choreographically set people's thoughts into emotions, and that is what we also call politics. In philosophy, we have a different branch of philosophy called political philosophy, where we study people like Machiavelli. Machiavellianism is a kind of philosophy from Niccolo Machiavelli, an Italian philosopher, who actually said the end justifies the means. And therefore you shall see how many people who are very learned, good philosophers, political scientists, spin the thought pattern of a people until they enter into a political situation. But for us to be guided by this, because we are not just discussing politics, we shall ask ourselves a question from one of the philosophers called David Hume. And the question that we have is, what did David Hume mean when he said that reason is a slave to passion? Now, David Hume was born in 1711. We are studying a very old philosopher who is very relevant to us today, in May 7, 1711. He is a Scottish philosopher, so he was born in Edinburgh, and he died in 1776. He was also a good historian. He studied a lot of history. He was an economist, he was a novelist, and he was known for his philosophical understanding of empiricism and skepticism. What is empiricism? There were two branches of philosophy in the 17th century. We had rationalism and empiricism. Rationalism is a kind of philosophy that actually agrees that you can have knowledge even without experience, because when we were born with innate ideas. There are some ideas that are within ourselves, and gaining knowledge is nothing other than just recalling that which we already know. So there are people who are rationalists, they are idealists, they believe in knowledge which is already in the depth of our mind. But Hume was not a rationalist. Hume was an empiricist and a skeptic. Empiricists, for them, believe that for you to have any kind of knowledge, for you to know anything, you need experience. You need sense experience. And therefore, they talk in terms of the sight. The sight is an experience that comes from the eyes, or the touch, or the taste, or the smell, and all these. So, those are the senses, and through these senses, we come to know something. So for you to know this is a bottle of water, you can see it with your eyes. You can touch it. You can also smell it if it is something that has some smell. Or you can also hear. It is something solid. And this is the way you come to know knowledge. But that is not the most important part. I was just saying he was an empiricist. For him, he said, we are governed by passions. And the statement he said is that reason or reasoning is a slave to the passion. And many people believe that all our judgments, all our reasoning is not so much free, it is judged and guided by our passions. What are passions? In this case, it's emotions. We are just saying that thoughts are slaves to emotions. Reason is a slave to passion. And this is now what many politicians in the world use in order to control the people sometimes. Let us try to analyze. According to David Hume, Hume is Hume, reason is and ought only to be the slave of the passions. And according to him, reason cannot pretend to any other office than to obey the passions. So, this Scottish philosopher David Hume said in the Treatise of Human Nature that reason is a slave to passion. So, according to Hume, our goals are set exclusively by calling passions and desires into action. And when we talk of passions, we are talking of emotions, we are talking of desires, we are talking of the will. So according to Hume, reason being the slave of the passions, this means in the sense that practical reason alone cannot give rise to moral motivation. It is altogether dependent on what we call pre-existing desire that furnishes motivations in our lives. So he also offered a theory about the way that emotions spread among people, which help explain the divisiveness in the current political situation in the world. That the emotions can be spread among people to a point that the whole group of people have the same emotions, or different types of emotions, that group A have the same way of reasoning and have the same emotions as far as politics is concerned. So, how are actions produced in this system of David Hume? How are actions produced? According to Hume, all our intentional actions are the immediate product of passion, are the immediate product of emotions, are the immediate product of feelings, are the immediate product of desires, what we call today desires. So he does not think that any other kind of mental state could on its own bring about intentional action, except if it is first, it comes from passion. And you can ask yourself, when you do something, do you do that thing because of the way you have reasoned too much about it? Or is it because of the desire? Why do you go to buy something? If you don't know, window shopping is something that came in 1850s, whereby for the first time the shops started having that window where you can see. Why did they bring that window? It's because they know when you are walking around, even if you have a sweater and you see a very beautiful sweater inside the shop, chances are high that you'll enter into the shop and check the price. And once you know the price of this sweater or jacket, chances are high that you will one day, because already your mind has been furnished with the knowledge that there is a sweater, and the desire, the emotion, the passion tells you, if I wear this sweater on the birthday of so and so, or on my birthday, it will change the way I look. And that is why you see, I always ask our dear ladies and our sisters, please, when you are going for shopping, do something simple. Write down what you want. Because so many people go to the shoppings, and when they enter that supermarket or that mall, they went into a picking spree. They pick this, they pick this, they pick this, because they are being guided by passion, by emotions. They are not being guided by reason. That's why when they come back to the house, they realize, almost everything they bought is what they did not want to buy. And everything that took them to the shopping is what they left. And now, the shopkeeper knows very well, and that's why he has put that shirt in a way that immediately you see it, it makes you even look like wearing it, you become slimmer. But it doesn't change you. But there are so many people who are guided by passions to a point that they enter into a shopping spree. Then, according to Hume, not all the passions can become motives for action. However, beyond instincts such as hunger, that's a very strong instinct, lust, honoring desire and aversion, hope and fear, and joy and grief, or combination of these generates actions. Your hunger can generate action. Your desire can generate action. So that when you feel hungry, you walk towards the restaurant, or you walk towards the garden in order to pick some onions. So a feeling of pleasure or a feeling of pain, whether physical or psychological, or I believe that pleasure or pain may or will come from something, occurs in the mind and causes the passion, and that passion brings action. And that is why you run. Sometimes you are walking alone and you hear some noise from the bushes. That feeling of danger makes you run. It produces action immediately. And now, when we come back, we shall see how these thoughts and how these emotions and passions are used by the politicians in order to create a kind of will among the people, to a point that the people are so much convinced of a certain slogan to a point that they can even kill you for it, because it has also become a passion or a desire or a need in them. Let's meet after the break. Thank you very much.
Did you know that Breast Cancer Awareness Month started on Thursday, 1st October and ends on Saturday, 31st this month? Mater Misericordia Hospital and the Sisters of Mercy have organized a free breast and cervical cancer screening on 18th October 2020 at the Well Karen, first floor, starting from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, contact us on 0722 318 149 or visit our website www.matakenya.com. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Mater Misericordia Hospital cares.
The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
To get Lord's Prayer as your Skiza tune, send Skiza followed by code 738-102-64 and send it to 811.
So welcome back. I'm still Dr. James Wangai Kabata. I don't know whether I reminded in the beginning. So we were trying to analyze Hume politics on passions, on thoughts, passions, and emotions. And what I was trying to explain is that a political class have two kinds of possibility. They can furnish the people who follow them with a lot of passion, with calm passions. And when calm passions predominate the people people are usually drawn towards goals of cooperation. They feel like cooperating, peace, maybe careful planning, mutually advantageous future for everyone. This is because the political class is bringing calm emotions to the people. But when people are primarily swayed by anger, resentment, fear, hatred, divisions of whichever kind, their passions tend to be violent, as Hume described them, and they will often adopt goals that inflict suffering on others. They may not care of the choices of the other people. They become harmful. They become people who don't care of what the other person thinks. For them, they follow the Machiavellian route that the end justifies the means. Whatever means you use in order to reach a certain end, it is important. And this is usually produced by the ruling class. Remember, in Plato's Republic, Plato was one of the philosophers. He divided the society into three. There is the philosopher king, and there is the soldiers, and then there are the peasants. Among the philosopher kings, we have the politicians, and these politicians are there not because probably they are very qualified to be there, but because they have used still the same means that I'm talking about in order to reach the political class. So maybe they are not well equipped into guiding the desires of the people, the thoughts of the people, the emotions of the people to answer certain goals. So what these politicians do usually, they divide the people in terms of, there are so many ways of dividing the people. You can use race, them against us. You can use the tribes, those against us. You can use families, this is what we call nepotism. You can also use age, the old versus the young. You can also use economy, the rich versus the poor. You can also use all those, aristocratic class, or maybe the dynastic class, or the poor sufferers, all those. All those are ways of trying to divide the people. But what you don't know, and what we don't know is that according to Hume, the more we speak about these things, the more people are getting convinced, and the more people are ready to change, such that if you use any philosopher who spreads a lot of emotions to the people, once you repeat something so many times, it becomes so much truthful that the people will not even know when they are acting on what you have told them. A lie repeated so often becomes almost truth among the people who don't logically analyze it, or a truth that has been repeated so often becomes so vivid, such that everybody even asks you, kwani wewe hauoni? Can't you see that we are suffering because of this and that? But probably the one who started the ideology was very much aware of why he did it and where he was heading to. According to Hume, this is because reason is always a slave of passion, emotions. So how emotions spread among people? How can we talk of emotions? The question we're asking ourselves is, but why is our political discourse, for example, in the world, I'm not talking only of Kenya, go to America, go to Europe, go to China, Tanzania, why is our political discourse currently so dominated by violent rather than calm passions? Because I say there are violent passions and calm passions. It is not because we are less reasonable. People are reasonable. Actually, people are more learned than before. According to Hume, we are capable of reasoning as we ever were. We are capable. However, another position Hume holds would provide some explanation for the stubborn division and hostility that we find in the current political climate in the world. Namely this: we human beings tend to acquire the beliefs and the emotions of other people when we observe them. I don't know whether you have ever thought of this, that you as a person, you are able to acquire the beliefs and the emotions of the other person, especially when you are able to observe this person. What happened? Hume argued that we human beings tend to acquire those beliefs and those desires of other people through observation. And this is not mental telepathy as people would talk. Rather, when we are near other people, we can infer from their behavior what they are probably feeling. And because of the resemblance between our own minds and theirs, and you know human minds, according to Hume, resemble one another to some degree, we associate their thoughts and feelings with ourselves. Since each of us has a very lively awareness of ourselves, in linking the feelings of others with myself, I don't merely recognize that they are feeling what they are feeling, but sometimes you start to feel it yourself. For example, if someone is acting very angry in my presence, shouting, I don't just conclude reasonably with the reason alone that the person is angry, but sometimes you actually start feeling angry. So the same sort of things happen when someone is cheerful, which is why we enjoy the company of cheerful people, because they raise our spirits. People who are cheerful, when they enter into a room, everybody cheer up. People who are angry, when they enter into a room, everybody becomes annoyed, because they come with all the arguments why we shouldn't be angry. So I can also come to share other people's opinions about science, say, or religion or politics, by hearing them express them with enthusiasm. So Hume called this process sympathy, by which he means not feeling sorry for others, but mirroring the attitudes and beliefs of other people. Of course, we get many of our beliefs of the basis of evidence and not through sympathy, but we can get some of them by sympathy too. When somebody come and explain to you the hunger in their village and how they have been neglected and how he takes time to come to the tarmac because there is no road. When they talk about this with a lot of enthusiasm, you are entering into their discussion. I don't know whether you have seen people, when they start talking, we are even standing up, following them, and even almost crying by the time. And by the time they finish the story, you are part and parcel of that. Don't ask me why people take stones. People take stones not because somebody mathematically or logically reasoned with them. People take stones because somebody has emotionally activated their passions and they feel now it is the time for stones. You don't need to convince them it is time to draw stones, you know. And that's why you see some of these politicians at each time, they don't use the words. They say, hi, and then everybody is being reasoned. And by the time you realize everybody is speaking in unison. I remember one of my friends who, after watching a game in the stadium, he was not able to remember that his car was parked in that stadium. He followed a group of fans 4 kilometers only to realize that he has to come back alone. But all the time he was walking, he didn't even realize he is in a peer group and he is just carried over by people singing good hymns for the team he supports. So according to Hume's sympathy, this is process of coming to have emotions and opinions of others. Works much more effectively. This sympathy works much more effectively between people who are of similar language. There are things when they are spoken in your language, they enter passionately. Or people of the same ethnicity and gender. As it does between people who are not like each other. And this is not just in Africa, even in Europe, even in America. There are all those ideologies that divides people. And many politicians know how to enter into these ideologies. What should we do? So its operation, the operation of sympathy, depends on our recognition of the other person as ourselves. When we feel the emotion of the other person, the anger in the other person, little by little, without knowing, we enter into their thought process. And what we don't know is that they are actually transmitting the whole lot of themselves to us. So sympathy also works more powerfully between people who are close together. People who are close together in space and time. So we may not have a lot of sorrow on joy or fears about people who are very far away from us. I remember last time I gave you an example of somebody dies in South Sudan. We don't feel it so much because we don't know the person. But if somebody dies close to you or your neighbor, even when you are watching Capuchin TV and there is an announcement, and there's an announcement of somebody you know, I hear some people, they say, oh, keep quiet, keep quiet. You know, that is the person. And you are all listening together. And you are actually listening to what you already know. But it has already captivated you because you are close with this person in time and space. So David Hume recognized that this natural tendency of our minds could lead to bias, insensitivity, toward those that we differ, those who are far away from us, those who do not think like us. And this is where people who are not very good in politics, people who want to manipulate the people, slowly by slowly they use these ideologies, space, time, gender, ethnicity, economy, ideologies of race and all these. They choreographically mix them up and bring a new class of people so that without knowing it becomes a story of we against them. Why? Because people do tend to associate more with those like themselves, and consequently their characteristics, their emotions and their beliefs are reinforced. They are sympathetic to each other. So what can we do? Sometimes it's good to know that most of the things we do are not governed always by reason. There is a lot of emotions that play in us. So it is always good to ask yourself, am I right in taking this decision? This information has been fed to me by this politician or this person. Am I supposed to take it 100% or should I reason it out? Or can I be different? What should I do in order to be different? I think this is a good reflection for today in order to know that usually, although we talk of thoughts, emotions play a lot on our thoughts. And therefore, next time when we meet, we shall continue entering into these debates of politics a little by little in order to make good decisions and wise decisions. Because you will not stop the politician from manipulating our minds, our thoughts, and our emotions, but we have to make our own decisions. We have to make sure that we are one. Actually, God created us in the image and in the likeness of Himself, and therefore we are one. Anyone who tries to bring different divisions is not heading in the right direction. Till next time, goodbye and enjoy your afternoon. Thank you very much.